Hi class, in this presentation we're going to explore the history of archaeology, famous archaeologists, and their contributions to the field. I do suggest that you take notes because some of this information will be on the quiz, but you can always go and look at the transcript to find all the information you'll need for that. So let's begin. What is archaeology? Archaeology is one of the four subfields of anthropology. And anthropology is the study of human behavior. So, we have to ask ourselves, what does that mean? Basically, anything and everything that makes us human beings and cultural bearing creatures, anthropologists study. That can be the foods we eat, the things we think, the things we believe, the types of languages we speak, how we dress, just anything and everything that makes us human beings, anthropology studies. And that even includes like the macabre and the taboo and the, kind of not so nice and nasty parts of being humans too. It's just there's nothing that is off limits to anthropology when it comes to being human. So, as I said, there are four subfields of anthropology. And the first subfield is cultural. Just like the name implies, cultural anthropologists, they study mostly cultural aspects like kinship systems and economic systems and social organizations and just kind of things like that. And our second subfield is physical anthropology or biological anthropology. It goes by both names. And basically, physical anthropologists study primates, and that includes us and the other great primates. And basically what they're trying to do is explain human behavior through our development and evolution. So they look at bones, and like I said, they study other primates and try to find the similarity and differences in our behavior. So, our third field is linguistics. And linguistics is the study of language. However, linguistics explores all the different ways that we communicate, and that could be symbolically, like with hieroglyphs or runes, or it could be nonverbal, like with body language. So finally, our fourth and best subfield is archaeology. And what we do is we study prehistoric peoples and cultures based on material remains. And we call them cultural resources or cultural remains. And basically these material remains are anything that have been modified by humans. So like points and hammerstones and grindstones and even things like burials or temples, just anything that humans have done and modified is how archaeologists determine how prehistoric people lived in the past. So, archaeology is conducted all over the world because all cultures have a prehistory and people are interested in learning about the prehistoric peoples and societies that came before them. However, the way that archaeology is conducted varies, and it just has to do with factors like the environment, laws, individuals just testing out new methodology or testing new theories. What we're going to focus on is mostly the history of Western archaeology. And the first official archaeologist is Greek historian Herodotus. And Herodotus lived from about 484 to 425 BCE. And that is before the Common Era or before the Christian era. And Herodotus traveled around the Greek countryside and documented people and events, and we have just extensive collections that he put together. And he's considered the first archaeologist because he actually employed methodologies in his studies and documentations. And before Herodotus, in the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which is, over in the Middle East, we have King Nabonidus. And he was from about 556 to 539 BCE. Notice how we go backwards with BCE, because that leads up to 1 AD, which is the present era that we're in. So what King Nabonius did, we give him credit because he was kind of the first person to like preserve ancient temples and rebuild ancient temples. But Herodotus is considered the first official archaeologist. Now, when archaeology first began in about the 1700s, what we have is antiquarian. Antiquarian. So basically, this is just antiquing. We were a lot of wealthy Europeans, and they were really interested in Greek and Roman artifacts. So we see this kind of Indiana Jones style, like smash and grab and tomb robbing, and no respect for the local cultures. So because of that, people were like, no, we need to do this a little differently. We need to try to be a little more scientific. We're actually trying to figure something out here. And we see these early antiquers trying to imply methodologies and theories to their madness. But it wasn't really until the Age of Enlightenment, starting in the 1900s, that we see archaeology turning to be more scientific. Before the Age of Enlightenment, people just didn't have a lot of resources available to them, so they didn't have an understanding of how the world around them worked. They were in the dark, so to speak, and that's why we call it the Dark Ages before the Age of Enlightenment. People did have, though, the Christian Bible and Greek texts as historical references. In fact, many of the early archaeologists, that's what they were doing. They were going out to test and try to find sites that were talked about in the Bible and in these Greek texts as a way to, to give them validity and prove that people, events, and places really did indeed happen. And because of their work in the archaeological record, we do know that these are valid historical references. However, the problem is that they just don't really explain how the earth formed, or really how old it is, or even really give us an idea of like our human and socio-cultural evolution. So before the Age of Enlightenment, people thought that the earth was 6,000 years old. However, there were a lot of geological and archaeological discoveries going on at that time, so people were beginning to realize that the earth formed over many millions of years, and it was a process of change. These discoveries and advances in geology and archaeology really helped archaeologists start to map out the human history, or rather, moreover, human prehistory. But it's still not until the 1900s, in the Age of Enlightenment, that we see archaeology start to really explode into a science. Need help? As always, if you have any questions or need any help with class, please let me know. Continue stretching and challenging your critical and creative skills so that you are successful in all your endeavors. You can do it. Thanks.